So if you have any rechargeable lithium-ion batteries and don't immediately throw them away after each use, like a rich person, then you probably, well, I guess recharge them, right? Or maybe you're not good at planning and you didn't know what you were going to do with those batteries after you drained them. Well, if you do charge them, then there's a good bet you use one of the safest and most reliable chargers around. Xtar. Xtar also makes flashlights and headlamps, including the H3. Oh, wait, so they also make Hummers now? No, sorry. They make a headlamp called the H3 Warboy, which is named after those guys that spray paint their mouths in the new Mad Max movie, and not a child soldier. Although, I'm pretty sure there's not a product tie in. Ah, okay, I got it. I have to spray paint my mouth to use this headlamp. No, 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 no. It's just a headlamp. A really bright headlamp that has nothing to do with huffing spray paint, human rights abuses, or a crappy, discontinued, watered down SUV based upon a much cooler military vehicle. It's just awesome and bright. You strap it onto your head or you clip it in your pocket. It's a reflector based headlamp that uses an XML2 U3 cool white LED. Reflector based headlamps are those types of headlamps that project or throw the light a longer distance than most headlamps that tend to scatter light closer to your body. It's constructed out of a 6N01 aluminum alloy, which must sound cool to alloy nerds. Or not, because I really don't know what that means. It has a glass lens with a coating on it. It takes protected or unprotected 18650 or 18700 cells, but do not use CR123A cells unless you like throwing away headlamps as much as you do your batteries, because it will damage this one. That also comes with a strap, a pocket clip, some O-rings, a manual, and some cardboard and plastic, which is cool. The Warboy has 5 modes, none of which blink. Sorry, strobe dudes. In each frame, you'll see Xtar's claimed outputs versus my figures. My figures are taken from a homemade device that should give you a ballpark figure of how it stacks up. First, there's Moonlight. Then there's Low. Then there's Mid. Then there's High. Then there's Turbo. Cool. So, how does the Warboy operate? It has a simple user interface, or UI for flashlight scientists or abbreviation scientists that like to shorten things to sound cool. First, one short click turns it on and turns it off. Press and hold to cycle through the modes from low to mid to high to turbo, and then back again. Release when you find the mode you like or don't because you have problems making decisions. If at any time you want to use another mode, press and hold and it continues on to the next mode until it starts over again. It has mode memory. A quick click turns it off, and when you click it to turn it back on, it remembers your choice. Okay, so what about the Moonlight mode? Just give it a rapid double click at any time while it's on or while it's off. Moonlight mode is not saved into mode memory, and it is also not available by pressing and holding the button. You can only get to it by double clicking. Cool, let's test some runtimes. First is turbo. The output starts out bright and dims, as you can see. Over the course of the runtime, it goes up and down in brightness, as you can see. Xtar says they have employed a thermal regulation that allows the light to dim and brighten when it cools back down. I tried this with 2 different batteries, a 3100 mAh Panasonic and a 2600 mAh Sanyo, and it behaved exactly the same way with both cells. The dimming and brightening occurs over 1 minute or so with a gentle ramping up and ramping down. No strobing, flickering, or PWM is present. It runs for about 3 hours and 22 minutes with the 3100 mAh battery and 2 hours and 32 minutes with a 2600 mAh battery. Okay, so now high. High runs for about 2 hours and 53 minutes. It maintains steady brightness at 2 hours, 10 minutes before beginning to dim. It actually still had light coming out of it at a sub-moonlight mode in all tests, but I cut them short when light was no longer usable. I used the 2600 mAh Sanyo to test this mode too. Now, mid, using the 2600 mAh Sanyo, runs for just over 6 hours before going into a low sub-moonlight mode. I cut the test short, again, when the light was no longer outputting usable light, but for fun. Is that an appropriate term for what I did when I left it on for another 12 hours? Probably not. The ending voltage was at a reasonable 3.15. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's do some beam shot comparisons between 6 headlamps all set to their max brightness, because that's how flashlight science works. Or let's call it the headlamp porn section. First, I'll stand about 25 feet from the shed you see in all my videos, and then I'll stand about 7 feet from the house that I live in so you can see the beam profile. On the screen, you'll see my camera settings and my measured outputs for the light in this test, and Grover also wanders into the frame staring at stuff. I'm not sure what he's doing. All lights are stock except for the skill hunt. First up, the Xtar pretty much blows them all out of the water in throw. It's brighter and can project light further than the rest of the group because of the reflector. The ST6 is also reflector based, but it's an older generation, so it's not really that bright. The Army Tech Tiara and Wizard Pro. Next, the Tiara appears brighter, but that's probably because I used the discontinued Wizard Pro wide optic warm, so the beam is more dispersed than the Tiara. The S6 is a bare emitter, meaning that it throws way less than all the others. Some people prefer this wide sort of beam, although if you see me close to the house, they all provide adequate light for close-up work, in my opinion. But for photography and specialized purposes, the bare emitter is nice because the light pattern is so even without hot spots or rings. Okay, and the skill hunt. While the next section plays out on screen, let me add a few thoughts because I love hearing myself talk. Just kidding. I wanted to make this video shorter, but I feel like the biggest argument in headlamps is the optics of them, so I wanted to give a good idea of what kind of optic does what. I prefer the Army Tech's optics the most, but there is value in the throw of the Xtar and the diffuse beam of the Spark SG6. You'll see my measurements are lower for the other headlamps compared to the Xtar on their maximum output. I feel this is because my measuring device favors lights and headlamps that have reflectors and does not favor ones that are more diffused. So please don't take them as a Bible, but still understand manufacturers do inflate their numbers, often, especially Army Tech, and apparently Spark by a bit too. Although the Xtar seems conservative out of the bunch, it is the brightest headlamp I've ever owned. Also, my camera is always set to manual, so you can take the beam shot section as an accurate representation of the relative brightness of the lights between one another, even if you think I'm a liar on the tested specs. Also, in the manual, Xtar states they use a 3100 mAh battery for all their tests. I test with a reliable protected 2600 Sanyo cell because I prefer using a proven tested cell that has protection when I'm draining the batteries in my runtime tests. Okay, so what else? The Xtar offers something that the others don't. Throw. It's also about $50, making it cheaper than all the lights except for the skill hunt. It's plenty useful in enclosed areas, but you may need to use a lower setting because of the bright hotspot. It doesn't throw as far as a good flashlight, but it keeps your hands free. I found the head strap is a bit harder to adjust to my head than the other headlamps I own, but it's no more or less uncomfortable. The angle of the lamp is easily adjustable and about the same as all the other for adjusting light. It's waterproof to IPX8 standards, so feel free to use it outdoors in any weather, like regular rain, but not, fire and brimstone rain. The moonlight is nice and only the Tiara goes much lower. I like the shortcut to moonlight mode, so you don't have to burn your eyes if they're adjusted to the dark. And maybe you forgot what mode it was on last. It'd be nice if Xtar finally started offering a neutral or warm tint like all the other manufacturers on the list, but they don't yet. Are you listening, Xtar? Alright, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more reviews just like this. All real world tested right before your eyes. If you don't like my opinions, there should be enough info for you to form your own, or have someone else form your opinion because you don't trust people on YouTube, which is fine.